Welcome. No, man. Yeah, I'm trying to do. You could have faded it. I can't do everything.
You just cut the people off.
I can't do everything. Look, I don't want to get hit up for having to pay Mr. Willie Hutch for his sample that we use every single day. Week.
We make sure it's underneath that 15 seconds.
Make sure it's underneath that 15 seconds.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make sure that the thing is on.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tell the Truth Podcast. This week I'll start. I'm Tyann. See, look at me.
I see.
Look at me go.
And I am Darrell.
That's not what you usually say.
I am D. Taylor.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, yeah, we on. Let me share.
Look, okay, so a couple of you, if you follow us or if you've been with us for the last couple months or so, our producer decided he just wanted to be 14. So he is quit on us. So he hasn't quit. He works very much so behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So
but we're actually we're using a different platform this week. So it is a little bit easy for us to control to navigate it, because the other one is kind of rough and difficult. And we got our cameras working right, and so we actually look a little bit better. Look at that picture.
I know.
I never knew. Shout out to Tony Baker. But yeah, man, we are back. We are back with another edition of the Tell the Truth Podcast.
Hey, Mom.
We actually we can see. We ain't even got to you. Look at that. Man, I think I like the little Streamlabs joint. It's a little bit clearer and a little bit clean cut. Not Streamlabs, StreamYard. A little bit clear cut on this platform for us to be able to use. So please share if you have it. If you know how to share the YouTube video, please share the YouTube video with all your friends and family, because this is going to be This is going to be a great show, and we have a special guest. But before we introduce our special guest tonight, we're going to go over a couple of these pop culture things that we need to get out the way.
I know we got to start with the foolishness first. Get that out the way. We're going to start with, I don't know if everybody has heard, and Dara was the one to tell me about, apparently there are some egregious allegations against T.I. and Tiny of sexual abuse, numerous things going on, entrapment, and a whole lot of other things, of course, which they have vehemently denied. So I don't know. T.I. has been caught up in quite a few things before, and has been, managed to pretty much keep his nose clean. And they supposedly had got a divorce at one time or another. So how they got wrapped up in this, I'm not sure, but they are actually threatening to sue the people that release these alleged. They are
going to sue these allegations of sexual abuse, sexual misconduct, actually abusing dancers with money, and trafficking girls. Yeah. It's a lot of allegations going on. We're not going to say who's guilty, who's not, because we don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just some stuff going out. Just do your research. And we're not making any judgments or any comments on super comments. We just letting y'all know what's happening, what's going on. And we did not have wine the last couple of times, but we do have wine tonight.
We got a wine of the week. Stella Rosa. Y'all can't see that. That's what it is.
It's not really able to. Yeah.
You got to put your hand behind it, and I'm not that tall. So, anywho, it is Stella Rosa. Which one is that? Tropical Mango.
You still can't
yeah, but we had a couple people from the first set of wines. We were trying to do local, to hit us up. Then they wanted to showcase theirs. Y'all didn't send us anything in. So once you send us your wine in, if you from RVA or the surrounding areas, if you want us to showcase your wine on the show, we looking for you to just send it. I'm sure we had some delivery problems because of COVID, but if
Amazon make it every week. to this house.
I'm not gonna talk about that. At least 3 to 4 times a week. But yeah, again, if you want to showcase your wine, please send it to us, and we'll make sure it's featured as the wine of the week on the show, since we are being more consistent these days. We try to be with y'all every Sunday.
Except for next Sunday. Next Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday, so I ain't even gonna be checking for us on Super Bowl Sunday.
I might have to come by myself. I know everybody ain't gonna be watching Super Bowl.
Man, most people, look, people don't even watch football watching Super Bowl. Not even if it's just for the commercials, they watching football.
That's true. Very true. Okay, so maybe we'll skip next week. We'll be with y'all with the following.
The following week we will have Folly Ware on the show, and we'll be discussing
Folly.
We'll be discussing how she got into the DJ game and also marriage with her. So we are be ready. Be ready.
Be
ready.
You want to go on with the next thing while I check these?
Okay. The next thing we have on the show is we're talking about Mr. Kanye West. A couple years ago, maybe last year, but before COVID was hitting, they was doing a lot of touring with his Sunday service choir, and now he actually has to pay those people. Then he's being sued for $30 million for unpaid wages. So like the musicians, the choir, all these people that was rocking with him, and they made great music, but you have to pay people. And if you don't pay people, guess what? They're gonna sue your hind part.
Ask Kirk Franklin. I mean,
melodies.
I don't understand why not. You got a whole choir, and it was at least 100 people in that choir.
That joint was deep.
And I think with a lot of artists, and maybe the mindset even of Kirk Franklin at the time is that these people are not going to be as hard pressed for me to give them a paycheck because they're receiving exposure. You can add this to your resume. I sang with the Sunday morning choir, or I sang with Kirk Franklin and the Family, or gospel. I sang whatever with, this big name star, and that's not a fair exchange. And it's crazy because I was talking about this. Check out at Moonshine Man on Instagram with some influencers where there are brands, and very large brands. Yes, if I'm building a relationship with you, I will take all of the free stuff I can possibly take. Send me all of your products. But once I've built my audience and once I've promoted your product, at a certain point, I'm going to expect you to cut me a check. And the free products are no longer acceptable.
I can't pay my bills with the free.
I cannot. And so I think this is the same instance. A lot of people that form these groups, they think the exposure is going to be enough. And that's great. Give me the experience. But after a while, I need you to run me my money. So
I need them checks.
I need the check. So I think that's where most of these people are at this point. They're like, all right, this was great. Thank you for the exposure. Thank you for the experience. But I need a check. And I'm sure they ran up against some kind of opposition for them to be at the point of a lawsuit. Their requests weren't, granted. So, yeah. And Kanye has ran into numerous other problems these days. So he may not want that on his back. He might want to go ahead and settle that and get those people squared away.
Brother Milton Courts, Junior, this just happened. We didn't even plan to put on the same shirt.
It's coincidental.
It's just
it's just purely coincidental.
Yeah, man. So yeah. All right. The stock market. Over the last week, the stock market has been crazy, and it's kind of helping a lot of us and I'm saying us. I'm not just saying black people. Us as kind of lower people on the economical scale, where a lot of us are making a lot of money really quickly and trying to disrupt the way people are doing things in the market. And it happens so abruptly that a lot of your trading partners that have commission-free trading stop letting people buy certain stock. They block the stock from being purchased for a while. Then they block automatic deposits, and so your deposits for your money has to come within 4 to 5 days, they are blocking. They're upset that we have gotten hip to the game. And as we was talking on our sports podcast the other day, was the fact that the broker, the hedge fund managers were trading options, not just shorts, not on the shorts, but trading the options. And because they were trading the options, that means when they borrow stock to get it, and if the stock would have lost value, they'd have made money. But since the stock gained value, they're gonna lose money. And it's almost one hedge fund lost like 70 billion. But look, before you get invested in something like this, it's good to have investments. But when the market is volatile on a lot of different ways, please make sure that's not your mortgage you putting in the stock market.
Okay.
Be smart about this thing.
Yeah.
Because it's still wobbly, and any of that could fall at any moment. But I mean, it all comes down to, it's all funny games till we learn how to play as well.
Yep.
And then, everybody want to start implementing rules that weren't there in
the first place.
But yeah, we hip to it. We definitely watching more. I've seen going into places like the car place and the salons and stuff, and the stock market is up on the TV, and I'm like, that was not there last week. So I think we trying to educate ourselves on where all of this is going. So keep y'all watchful eye out.
Yeah. All right. So on tonight's show, we're finished with our pop culture. We're gonna get into other stuff in a couple of weeks. Finished with that. But here we are now. We are in the midst of some great movies that have come out and some powerful movies. I don't like to use the word black movies because a movie is a movie, a great movie is a movie, even though the majority of the cast is African American black. But I just don't like to say black movies. I don't want to put us in a box. It's a great film, and we just need diversity. And the more diversity you have, the more powerful a film can be. And so we're going to be discussing with a doctor, the professor, Amini Courts, a professor at Coppin State University for over 30 years. She, like I said on the Facebook, she holds many awards and she's directed many plays and given back to her community. And she's our aunt. So Father said, she said black movies.
I say black movies too, Father.
I
let them have it.
I'm being politically correct. But we're gonna bring Dr. Courts in and let her kind of introduce herself to the world and to our audience. And don't forget, this is not only just on YouTube, but on anywhere you can get podcasts. We are there, so go and download us and let us know. Our biggest audience is in India. Our biggest audience in India. We get over 45% of our listeners outside of the United States of America. India, Japan, Russia. Might be a Russian bot, but hey, you pushing our numbers up, so we good with you. So we're gonna welcome in Dr. Courts. We're gonna unmute her and let her introduce herself to the Tell the Truth podcast audience.
Hey, everybody. First, let me thank my nephew and my niece, aka Darrell Taylor and Lady Taylor and the Tailored Truth, for inviting me onto their podcast of this show. I'm delighted. Nothing I like better than talking about theater and the arts. And because I was in it for so long, as you say, I put out a disclaimer. I am not a PhD, but I am a professor. I'm a retired professor of theater, and I have directed numerous plays and have enjoyed that wonderful career in theater, in legitimate theater and educational theater, community theater, and I've enjoyed it so much. As a matter of fact, I'm itching to get back into the theater to direct some plays. I did move from Baltimore, Maryland, where I was at Coppin State University for 33 years. And I did indeed move back home, my hometown, Richmond, Virginia. And I'm here trying to get reacclimated to the theater scene, the art scene here. A lot going on. And so I'm just delighted to be on the podcast this afternoon and loving to talk about, as you say, these wonderful broadcasts, these wonderful films that have come about. And I'm just so happy because it's so many of my artist colleagues, African-American artists, actors, producers, directors back on the scene producing. And it's not just for stage and film, it's for every venue. And so I'm delighted to see that happening.
Awesome.
Yep. I'm talking to your son right now. I'm trying to get him to come on to the YouTube page.
Oh my goodness.
So he can share his live commentary on the page.
He needs to do
He
that.
already said you need to use your big words on tonight. And he said this is the latest episode of That's My Mama.
We're going to start at the top. I guess we'll do these in order they were released. So we're going to start with Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And if you could give us, we know a little bit, maybe as far as stage beginnings first, and then how do you think this went on into production? And then we'll talk about the logistics of it.
Okay, delighted. But, first of all, I need to give a shout out, although he's dead and gone, but he was the most prolific poet, playwright I ever encountered. One of my favorite, August Wilson. And he didn't set out to do this, but in essence, he wrote 10 plays chronicling the migration and the living of African Americans in these United States every decade from the 1800s to the 20th century. So he has placed one play that he has written in each of the decades explaining what happened and how Black people fared both economically, socially, historically, and has done so wonderfully. I happen to have been able to direct Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and I know it's such a powerful play, and I was delighted that it had come to Netflix as a film, and one that was, of course, directed so well by George C. Wolfe. So I'm delighted to be able to talk about Ma Rainey, because it's certainly, as all of the plays that we and the films that we're seeing lately, they do indeed tell the story of African Americans as we battle racism on the scene economically, socially, and what have you. So, when you span two different mediums, a play can only do so much. And it's set in time. So you pretty much have to rely on the story and the actors who create these wonderful characters and bring them to life. But inside the character are the playwright's words. And this is where August Wilson excels. He is a master storyteller, and he has put these words poetically and dramatically in these characters' mouths. And what we hear are the great arguments and debates chronicling the systematic racism that Black folk have encountered since the early 18th and 19th century. Ma Rainey takes place in the 1920s, and Ma Rainey was a historically accurate singer. She was called the mother of the blues. And as the story goes, in one of the interviews that August had, he was listening to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and he said, "Wow, what a powerful song. I'd like to know more about what went on and how this impacted this woman." So he wrote the play. As he often says, he would sit down with a drink and the pen would write itself. And so he talked about Ma Rainey, but Ma Rainey and Levy are the two main characters. And most critics will tell you that it really is Levy's story rather than Ma Rainey's story, because we see how all these years of racism and how Black people have been economically shut out of the commercial artist business, or their music and their words have been stolen from them. We see that debate and argument between Ma Rainey and Levy.
Mhm.
Levy represents the new and upcoming jazz, and Ma represents the blues and the traditional ways of thinking and doing things. And she knows she has the power because they want to make her records. They
Right.
want her, they want very much to make money on her. And she knows this. So she knows at the moment she holds the power. That's why, it may look like she making a big deal of give me a Coca-Cola and I ain't gonna make no music until I get my Coca-Cola and it's hot in here and don't tell me what to do. The two producers in the studio happen to be white. And she holds court with them and tells them, I'm not gonna do anything. She says, I know you want to put my voice on that tape there, but as soon as you put it on the tape, then you control me. But right now, I don't control you.
Right.
So she's really, really big, and she knows that she's big, and she knows how to wield the power. In comes Levy. Levy's great. He's genius. He's an artist. He has the right. He's talented, but he's also frustrated because he wants to do his thing. He knows how to write music. He knows, he feels it. But Ma is not trying to make anything new happen because she wants it her way. So they clash.
Do you think a lot, even now, as we have seen people getting taken advantage of and getting their art taken advantage of, do you think there's still a battle between record companies producing and the artists?
Absolutely. That's why you have so many artists who are singers who write their own stuff and produce their own stuff because they want to control their own stuff. As long if again, there are many, many layers to music and producing film and whatever, because you have to have money. And money, generally the piles and piles of money it takes to produce movies, films, and otherwise, it doesn't come easily unless you get a millionaire backer investor. So you have to rely on the executive producers to help you get your stuff made. But yes, the fight to control your own work, your own art goes on and on. And it's particularly sensitive to African American artists who have traditionally, forever and ever, gotten their stuff stole from them. Remember, what's the name of the play? My girl says, somebody walked off with all my stuff. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah, my girl, Intisaki Shange,
Right.
for colored girls. One of the lady, the lady in green said, somebody done walked out with all my stuff. And that's what has traditionally happened to most African American artists who essentially were all about the artwork, expression, and loving what they do and putting it out there, but not really thinking twice about who controls it and how it happens after it gets out of there.
Go ahead.
Outside of, do you think there's a disconnect? Because you heard a lot of people when this came out say they didn't like it, they didn't understand, but I noticed most of the people that said that were not theater people. They don't necessarily frequent the theater. So I think the translation from theater to movies may have made this off-putting to some. Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, sometimes the transition to me, I think quite the opposite. The transition from theater to movie often makes the movie more popular and people accept that as the way it was and is. What movies do, films do, open and expand the environment of the play. You can't very well see the streets, or the environment, because everything happens in Ma Rainey in this one studio. But, there are many scenes in the film where we see Ma outside of that studio and how she reacts and how people react to her, and you get a chance to understand the environment. But what I really think is people who say they don't like the movie are reacting to maybe the themes presented in the movies, because the movie is raw,
Right.
it is articulate, and it is clearly a debate. Some people are just going on their feelings, and some people are coming from a place where they truly understand the traditional arguments that are presented in Wilson's work. And so those who really appreciate it, you look at the movie on many levels. You look at the artistry of the performing and the acting. You look at the artistry of the playwright and the screenwriting and how it creates poetically the debates that are going on, and you appreciate it for what it is.
One of the things that I saw in this movie and I took from this movie is the dynamic not only between Ma and Levy, but also the dynamics between Levy and his bandmates, where his bandmates, because they was a little bit older, understood, what is and where they are. But Levy was really trying to come up and try to make his own path. But I believe he saw the studio. He saw the money you can make being a good studio artist and being able to put out records so the whole world can hear it. But just like DJ Foley said, Levy was so hungry that he was willing to just they basically gave his stuff away. So do you see that now? Where people will almost sabotage their forebearer to try to make amends, make their own?
Yeah, because unfortunately, again, many of our young artists don't understand the history, don't know the history of how our ancestors and how the people that came before actually struggled with, incessant racism and had to battle and get inch for inch, get what they have now. And some of them don't have it. So I think that they're unaware. And that's why I think that many artists in the film and in the acting business, I wish they would get some astute advisors to help them to deal with the money and to look at the legalities of the contracts and make sure they are not being duped, make sure they're reading the fine print, and make sure they control their product the way they want to. So yeah, it's still something that we have to watch out for. It's still something that many artists, because they are hungry, because they want to get out of the dire straits of poverty, many of the hip hop artists, early on got into that thing, along with the other kind of socio-political implications of being gang members. But we always read about these young artists who make it big and then go bankrupt because they haven't been advised, because they aren't aware of the business aspects of the art world. And that's something we really have to pay attention to still.
Yeah, when we talk about American Skin, we can talk about that as well, because some of that same things that was prevalent in the 20s are still going on now in current and modern day.
That's right.
So what's the overall lesson? Do you translate this movie into for the bigger picture for the community?
Well, I think the overall themes are still prevalent, and that just like in all forms of art, the artist and the work of art is designed to provoke thought, to move you to creatively think about how to solve the problems that the work of art is presenting, to think about the history and tradition behind why these problems have continued to happen, and not to just react to it, because people say, I hated that, I don't like that. But if it made you think, and if it made you angry, and if it made you do something, then the work of art is very valuable. So I would say that people going to see American Skin and Ma Rainey and One Night in Miami, do more research. Don't just take what you see at face value. Look at the themes that are inherent in each piece, and then do some research. Read the history behind these artists and the kinds of things that were happening politically, socially, and economically to African American folk during that period in which they were produced, and the period in which these famous artists and people lived.
And you said something that was key and poignant at this time about the reason why people do stuff is because of the financial ramifications, and they didn't have studios, they didn't have this equipment, they didn't have that back in the day. And I think it's now one of my my mentors, Brother Marcus Johnson, he has his own radio station, and it's called Legacy Internet Radio, where ownership is the key. And now with the amount of technology that we do have, or that's at our fingertips, like as we're doing this, we're seeing we have a thing in the background. We have you talking on, and then I watch my sports center, my sports shows, and basically we almost have the same setup. And it's amazing now that we can basically own our own stuff and not have to use a lot of the middle ground with the social media and with the technology.
Well, let me just tell you, it's really about your intent.
Mm-hmm.
I know you want to make money, but if your aim is to be rich and make money, then you're going to bypass the other kind of ethical things that people think about. You have to understand, what is your intent in building this business or creating this work of art? Do you intend to present a problem and then a solution, or have people think about it, or do you intend to make money?
Yep.
Because if your intent to make money, then you know pretty much how to do that. You just repeat what people been doing and what people like at the time. But is it going to be meaningful in the long run?
I put that on my page. I said, what is the why?
Right. Do you do like Tyler Perry? He understood very much what African-American communities and families love. And so he created Madea. Madea became big. We all love Madea. But once he did that, he realized, oh, enough Madea. Now let me create some of the things that I want to create that are more realistic in the realm of African-American life. Or let me put my money here. Let me put my money there. It takes a long time, but we have to look at the intent of each work of art or each thing that we build.
All right. Now, fast forwarding from Mount Rainey to One Night in Miami, where we have Sam Cooke, we have Muhammad Ali, we have Jim Brown, and we have Malcolm X having this conversation. And I want to upfront say we don't know the actual conversation that happened in that room. We don't know it. And everything that's made for TV isn't always historically accurate.
Absolutely.
But we know they had a conversation. And after that night, things dramatically changed for each one of those brothers. So and this one was directed by Regina King?
Yeah, this was her first venture into the big as directing, and great for her. I'm just thrilled. It was a wonderful piece. I enjoyed it tremendously. And again, you get to see three different historical figures, one an artist, one a fighter, and one in the political realm, but each dealing with the same kind of oppression, depression, and decision-making that they came to at a crossroads. And history has a way of doing that. It brings you to the crossroads where you have to decide whether you're going to continue doing what you're doing, or you have to question what you're doing, if it's significant, or if you can contribute something that's going to move things forward. And in this case, all three of them did change, and they did have an alternative view of what they would be doing going forth, but it was forced by what was happening at the time. Had they not, why did they come together? It was for supposedly to watch the fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston. But what was happening with Sam Cooke? He was a big hit. He was making great money, but he seemed to be not super. Well, he seemed to be content until questioned, right?
Yeah.
Until they by, of course, Malcolm. Malcolm is, well, yeah, you're doing great, but what you doing to help the cause, brother?
Right. But
and he never gave it any thought. He thought he was helping the cause by making money, right?
By owning his own and giving other people the opportunity. And when he broke, and see, this is the spectrum that I think a lot of us need to have open mind and clear communication with, because we think a lot of times we get in our own mind and our own focus, and this is the way it should go, this is the way it should be, and that's the only way it can be. But we end up when we start talking and branching off and seeing what everybody else is doing, we understand, okay, one of the big, not only social justice, but also economic freedom. And I think that's kind of why Malcolm and Martin ended up getting assassinated, because they started speaking about being free economically. Where Sam now was free economically, then he became the going into the social freedom realm as well. And they can't have you talking about socially free and economic freedom, because his music has touched, and he was a crossover artist. He's a crossover artist. And so once he started talking about social justice, social freedom, and uplifting mankind, humankind, and you can't be X, Y, and Z if you're doing this to the other people. And I think that's kind of why he was assassinated. We look at these men, we look at these people, we look at their different backgrounds and different things coming together, and they began to, as they was already friends, they began to get a deeper understanding of each other and their own personal struggles.
Absolutely. Again, I just got to say, the platform by which we present these thoughts and ideas are just wonderfully used in this movie. The acting is powerful. Leslie Odom Jr. is so powerful as Sam Cooke, and I mean, I'm loving him. I love him anyway because I got a chance to see Hamilton.
I was about to say Hamilton did it for us all.
But he's
sir.
It's just, but again, power to the artists for being able to now find the various platforms on which they can present their arguments, both actors, producers, directors, and playwrights and poets. Just get it out there, I'm just delighted about it.
Do you feel with the expansion of the platforms like Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, that is giving Black people more opportunity to produce and come up with their own set of movies and entertainment?
There's no question. Again, the pitfall is knowing how to move forward with these various venues and having adequate representation legally as well as artistically. I mean, but the field is wide open with the breakthrough with the various alternative ways you can make movies, produce movies, and as you say, you can do them yourself. People, you can do your own independent movie and just keep peddling it till someone sees it and happens to back it. It's an awesome thing to be able to say to a young artist that if you truly believe in this thing you're doing as an artist, as a sculptor, as a painter, as a playwright, as a poet, keep doing it and keep putting it out there. And then go to collectives of people who are like-minded, get more ideas about how to do it, and keep moving forward. Don't dash the dream. Just keep moving forward.
And just real quick, because for our strictly audio people that aren't watching on YouTube, I just want to put some of the comments out there. Father said her favorite line in the film was when Jim Brown told Malcolm X, "Negro, you don't have a job."
I love it.
It was mine too.
It was an eye-opener.
It was. And your son, not only was he creating content, he was starting his own record label, which you just said, on your own, and distribution company. The powers that couldn't have that.
So, exactly. And so when you're trying to own your own and push it on yourself, somebody, the larger structures see your breakthrough as the reality where so many could break through, and then that lessens, so somehow it lessens their ability to make money or to use you. And that's what you have to watch out for.
Yeah, and that was that, like I said, that comment that Jim Brown had. People forget a lot of times with famous people, actors, even musicians, that a lot of times people think they are
We
okay.
said it's a small glitch. That's okay.
Doing the things they do. You still with us? Aunt?
Yeah, you all got frozen a bit, but
yeah, we good. But what happens? What happens is that when you answer, it's like we see LeBron James and a lot of young basketball or young boys or young people see LeBron James. They see Steph Curry, but they rarely understand. Those men are getting paid by somebody else who makes more money. We think they rich. We think they have a lot of money, but we don't see them as having they don't have the answer to nobody because they're powerful in the public eye. When actually there's executives that pay them, there's owners that pay them, there's people that pay them to do what they do. The shoe companies, they have to do certain things. All their endorsements, and then if they don't do certain things, they lose endorsement money.
Yeah. I again, the ins and outs of the business, whatever it is that you have to be understood by the participating artists. And when they're understood, the more you understand what is at stake and what you own and don't own, the better off you are, because you can make informed decisions about your life going forward. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Your sister says speak to it from the book to the movie to the stage. Was One Night in Miami a book?
I don't think so. The only one that I know was, I don't know. I know that Ma Rainey was a play and it on the stage and it moved to film. One Night in Miami was a book. Yes, it was a book actually. And then it moved. I don't know what. Oh yeah, that's right. Thank you, sister. And because actually, my sister and I actually saw One Night in Miami on at the Black Theater Festival, the last Black Theater Festival in Winston-Salem. We went to. Actually, we were going to see it, and it was sold out. That's what happened. When I saw One Night in Miami on TV just most recently, I recognized, I said, I know this plot. I know these characters. Where? And then we were reminded that we had tried very much to see it when we were there, but it was sold out. When you go to Winston-Salem, if you don't buy the theater, if you don't buy those tickets for those plays, as soon as you get there for that week, you're out of luck. And that's what happened. It went from a book to a stage play, and now we saw it as a movie. Kudos for that. But every time you see it, it often changes performers, directors, and screenwriters. Yeah. Just because you wrote the play doesn't mean you're going to write the screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you starred in it on stage in theater doesn't mean you're going to get the part in film. And that's how the dynamics change when you go from one medium to the other. But guess what? If the story is potent, if the playwright, if the thought and themes are provocative in the first stage, it's going to be thought and provocative in the last stage.
Yeah.
And one thing I've always noticed, because you have a limited attention of an audience on film, that a lot of details that are in books are not in the film.
Always is.
They are. And when you go from, it's a wonderful thing when you go from the stage. When you go from the play to the stage, but then when you go from the stage to the movie, it's a lot less intimate. When you go to a live theater production, you are looking at vibrancy. The kinds of arguments, ideas, and things don't hit you the same way as if you were sitting in a movie or a film. And they have a different kind of effect. I'm not saying one is better than the other. Of course, I'm a lover of theater. That's my first love. So live theater is the thing for me. But it doesn't take away. Once you put something or set something in film, or celluloid, it's there for posterity. But when you go to see the same play 5 different times each night, you're going to come back with a different perspective each night. Why? Because the performers are different and the audience is different.
That is it is so true, because I didn't used to like to listen to gospel music on the radio or on a CD until I went and saw Kirk Franklin. Until I went and experienced a live show, I began to, because I liked listening to it at church, but I really didn't like listening to it in my car. But once I got that intimate experience with Kirk, it changed my view of it. And you are so right. A live performance is so much more intimate than what you're doing on theater. And because of the first take, second take, you're doing this, you're doing that, then it's edited, then it's this, that, and other. And we saw that firsthand from the little play we did at church where people was messing up, but the film was still going. And I looked over at you and I saw you grimacing and like, you are not saying this line right. Why you keep repeating this thing? You don't have time to do that. It was just interesting on how well it ended up coming out because of the ability to edit. And
it gives you a moment to absorb. Like, movies are moving. Like, so that's a process. So unless you go back and watch it a second and a third and a fourth time, you may miss some things.
Yeah.
But I think in a stage play or live, it kind of sits with you for a second because it's right there in your face. And so you have a moment to digest. Even if, and it's some stuff from stage plays, and I'm glad you brought that up. After we talk about American Skin, I'm gonna get you to touch a little bit on the theater festival. But I'm glad you said that, because sitting there when you have a live stage play in front of you, it's just a different emotion. And even afterwards, it's stuff that we saw there that didn't hit me until I got back to the room or a week later. And movies just don't do that for me most of the time. I mean, they just don't.
No, because movies, as great as they are set. Now, you could go back and watch the movie and rethink what you saw and all of that. But like I say, why do you think people do Shakespeare over and over and over and over again? I mean, it's the same play, but different. It depends on the director and the actors and the audience, what dynamics you're introduced to each night or each time you go to see it.
Right.
That's the difference between live theater. Why it's a little more exciting.
Tati said, and you have the transitions and breaks in between and the intermissions, the act that slow you time to reflect while absorbing the information. And Mom said theater is intimate. That's it.
It is.
Also, while we have you on, Professor Courts is also has a scholarship in her name at Coppin State. Because this is forever on the web. Can you please talk about your scholarship and how people can donate to your scholarship fund?
Oh, how awesome that you brought that up. I thank you so much, Darrell. Yes, I was so amazed and just overjoyed when my chairperson, Dr. Gary Hyatt, indicated that he wanted very much to have a scholarship set up in my name. And there is such one in the Department of Theater Performing Arts at Coppin State University. It's the scholarship in the name of Amini Courts. And I am theater professor emeritus there. So if you want to contribute to it, just write or whatever you can, share it. It's a foundation scholarship, which means that after we reach a specific amount, and I think we're going to make that this year, everything after that is for the good and starts to generate, interest.
Nice, yeah.
And so, but already because of before COVID and before I left, we had generated some funds. And for the last 2 or 3 years before this year, students were still recipients of that scholarship. So if you are interested, please contact Taylor Truth, Darrell Taylor, and he will give you the details. I can give you the addresses, all that. But Dr. Gary Hyatt at Coppin State University. And one also is there, and it's just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. And that is email us at taylortruthpodcast@gmail.com. TAYLORED Truth podcast@gmail.com, and we will make sure if you want to make a donation, we'll give you the information on how to do that directly to the school.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And so our last film, as we discussed this tonight, which is also another awesome, powerful film, written and directed by Nate Parker, also, but it was produced by Spike Lee.
Right.
So, Spike Lee joint. Is Spike Lee our modern day Shakespeare?
Some would say so, and very much so. Some people, many young people who are introduced to Shakespeare don't particularly like Shakespeare because it's so wordy and so much. But once you get past the language of Shakespeare, you realize he's very much a humanist, and he knows human nature, and all of his plays are about the tragic flaws that we have, especially the tragedies, but they're comedies and romance, and Shakespeare is the man. Spike Lee is the man because he has a way of trimming down all the arguments straight down, streamlining them so that they're in your face and you can't escape them. You have to look at them, you have to resolve them, you have to discuss them. He is the provocative artist. So yes, I love, and this is what happens in American Skin. Now, guess what? A lot of people, the critics panned this. I kept looking as I was going through it as a 4.5 out of 10. I saw a lot of critics, but you have to take critics and their reviews like a grain of salt. It depends on who's reviewing your work. But just for sheer sake of, remember we were talking about August Wilson putting the arguments out there, putting the debates out there. This is exactly what Nate did. It started out looking like it was going to be flashbacks and a documentary of some sort, but it ended up being in your face presentation of the arguments and debates of police brutality, the exact same things we're in the news that every day we see about what has happened.
But you know where I believe a lot of critics kind of down this movie, because they put a mirror in everybody's face, and don't nobody like to see the true reality of who you are, what you are, and what systems are.
Well, that's true. Like I say, it ceased. I mean, if you were looking for a work of art, of artistry, poeticism, this wasn't it. If you are looking for a medium that presented very effectively, brutally in your face what is happening today, some people don't like them to be mixed. That's what I'm trying to say. Some people don't. They said, well, I could stay at home and look at TV and see the same thing on TV, or I don't have to go to a movie. I don't have to see this. Why you make this? This happen every day. How is it made any more different? Why is it being made? And why should I look at this? I'm sick of seeing these police brutalities movies. So why do we sit there and watch it?
I just liked. I really like to hear our story. I like to hear what's going on, or I like the artistry of how you're going to portray this. He was right. We started off this film as looking at it as being just another documentary of how another one of our young boys.
Pause for a second, because we lost a few people, and I understand why. Because somebody just hit me up. There are spoiler alerts in this. I understand American Skin just came out. So if you don't want to hear, you need to.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so we had one or two people to go ahead and exit because they like, all right, I'm watching it now or I'm watching it tomorrow, whatever. So I get that. Y'all can come back and review this later and then give us your input. We do not mind.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so just spoiler alerts for anybody else left here. And real quick, Tassie says she doesn't pay attention to critic reviews when it comes to Black movies. Because I think it becomes relational. Like if you can't relate, like how are you going to critique something you can't relate to? So I just don't know. Or if you feel like this is not in your realm. And I think that goes back to what you said about it depends on who's critiquing the film. Like, so
just like Friday was a 1-star film. The movie Friday, the comedy Friday that came out in the late 90s.
And now it's a cult classic.
There's a cult classic. It elevated Q to O'Shea. It elevated what he can do on the films and make money making movies for our people, making movies that we relate to. I was listening to because one of my friends had transitioned this week, and I was struggling. I was struggling big time until I listened to a show, Spike Punch. There's a hip hop podcast on YouTube. Shout out to the creators, Sean P. and Ahmed. But they were music mates of his. They were really, really close. They were in groups together. They put out records. They did a lot of stuff. And one thing Sean said near the end is, Richmond, be you. Be you wherever you are and put out stuff for the love of it, for your hood, for the people around you to appreciate it. And watch when that stuff happens, it explodes. And a lot of times, even if everybody on the outside don't get it, the folk that you put it out for gets it. Just like we have a really good friend, comedian Boogie Bottom. He had a film a year and a half ago, and they were skeptical on how it would be translated. But that film, thankful for my family, thankful for my family, has won a lot of different independent film awards, and been nominated for awards because of what they did. If everybody catch on, that's great. But the fact that you doing it for the love and trying to get stuff out for your people to love, and they're gonna, and we know, we'll tell you when something trash.
Yeah, I have to tell you that the acting in American Skin is just tremendous.
Yes.
It's absolutely on point, intense. I was at the edge of my seat in the courtroom, in the prison, in the guards, and I'm like, whoa. And you are at the edge, but I have to tell you. Oh, that's right. I don't want people.
No, go ahead. We already made the announcement.
Spoiler alert.
I just want to say that I'm not gonna really say it, but the end is predictable. But even
I said it before it happened. I did.
It's predictable. Even in its predictability, you still watch. You still watch and you still hope.
Yes. Yeah.
And see, Pastor, you can appreciate this. The hope is still there.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen. It can't turn out any other way. And of course, this is where I coined this, and I wanted to say this. This movie is about the reality and immorality and immortality of the struggles of Black people.
Yes.
Especially police brutality. It is inevitable. 90 times out of 100, 9 times out of 10, the outcome. But you still hope that the outcome is going to be positive.
And the phrases were said, I think that sometimes we hope people in opposition of our argument are able to hear, because he said that the banter between the police officers was the stuff that we were like, okay, no, I want to tell you, this is why this happens, and this is why we think this way, and this is why you get this reaction. It's like, okay, we want to shake them and tell them, like, no, this is why this is. And some of that came out in the discussion between the two. It's like, okay, yes, I've been waiting for somebody to tell you this.
Well, and not only that, the other prisoners, the Latino brother, you get to hear all sides, and you get to see a piece of what is the turmoil inside of them. Mm-hmm. And then finally, as the police officers hear all this and get to examine themselves, they understand the reality of the situation.
Right.
They would never have done that had he not commandeered this thing and made this a trial inside the prison.
But also, not only did
inside the police
station, but not only did the police get to examine themselves, everybody in this entire film had to re-examine how they think and what they think of the way things are and the way they should be, and the systematic approach to everything. When the dude was just saying, I was just trying to go home. That's what they trained me to do, is to go home.
Right.
He didn't give any statements at the scene. He went home. Home. And the fact of the matter is, when they broke everything down, everybody got to see each part of it. Just like we was talking about the music in all three of these films, even though there wasn't a lot of music in this film, but in American Skin, but the breakdown of what the police see, the images that the police see, and thinking that is every Black person's reality, has systematically caused folk to be afraid of us. And then when they said, well, the Black on Black crime, you see all this, and then the dude was like, well, what are statistics for the white on white crime? What is statistics for the Chinese on Chinese crime? Where's those statistics? Everybody want to say the Black on Black crime, but not the overall crime itself.
Right.
And finally, second that, she said, I was a police officer for 5 years. They literally trained to make sure you go home. And that's it. And that's a real life thing. And you don't think about that even when, of course we have to think about our lives when being approached in situations like that. But, of course, everybody wants to get home. But you don't think about the back end of that. And I think it caused a lot of thought process on both ends.
And so it all gives credence in this particular situation to the whole concept of defunding the police and reissuing money so that police officers and people get retrained properly, or at least the training involves humanisms and how to treat and think through things before you react.
Mm-hmm.
All of that. Again, they would never stop to think that this can be turned around little by little, right, if you are trained to think differently.
This is another human being that is also trying to live their lives and get home. So.
Yeah, he was trying to get that young brother. The son was just trying to get home too. His dad said he taught him everything. This is what you do. You don't resist. But all he was doing was going for his phone, and what happened? So
and see, and it was so enlightening that when they were talking about when the young man was talking about to his friend about you can resist the police, and his dad came in there and was like, no, I know what the law says, but this is the reality. Mm-hmm. And I think what happens is a lot of times the other folk don't understand that we don't live with all the laws in our favor. No. We live on a skewed reality, and they can't see the way the system has oppressed us. And they are, like you said in the movie, slavery was such and such a long time ago. But they always want to bring up the slavery, but they don't ever want to talk about Jim Crow. They don't ever want to talk about segregation. And we know right now we still have people living, as of yourself, that had to deal with segregation. White only counters, white only water fountain, black only this and black only that. And it would be different if the black side and the white side were equal, but the black side was always a step below, a step down. And that is a systematic consciousness to keep us thinking that we don't deserve what you have.
400 years of this thinking. Do you think it's going to suddenly go away without rethinking?
You're supposed to forget about it. Yeah, you just supposed to
ingrained. That's why it's called systematic.
Yeah,
racism, systemic and systematic racism, and we just have to find ways of chipping away at it and trying bit by bit to retrain, reteach us to rethink the way we do things. In all systems, educational system. All the systems.
Yeah, that's why I asked in the beginning, do you believe that Spike is the modern day Shakespeare? Because a lot of his movies end in tragedy.
Well, I could say there's a big argument. I mean, there's a good argument to say yes, he is a modern day Shakespeare. And I thought I said so because he breaks everything down to its simplest form. The ideas and arguments are seen in his characters. I mean, I'm thinking about with the movie with the guy with the boombox, Do the Right Thing. I mean,
Radio Raheem.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, and in each movie you get to see the debate, the argument, and the choices.
It's so funny you should say that because I thought about that earlier today. Somebody asked me in my my Instagram group, said, Tanya, you just got your hair done, and then we're gonna end it after this. But you just got your hair done. You get a lot of braids and beads, and I said, you know what? I said my favorite movie is Spike Lee's Crooklyn, right?
Right.
And that scene where he had that split between the southern people and the northern people. I said, you think about it, I said the time that I grew up, yeah, I had braids or cornrows or whatever for a second, but down south it was pressing curls, and I'm straightening my hair out because we've had so many years of this reflection of what we are supposed to look like with straight hair. That wasn't a thing in the South at all. So from y'all's generation on over, y'all was trying to straighten this thing out so to make us look presentable, to other people. And it was later on that you discovered or instilled in us, like, okay, no, that's the way your hair grows out of your head, and you should take pride in that. But for a minute, that was the reality. And so when I watch Crooklyn and I see the opposition between the embracing of braids and beads and your hair in its natural state being up north, where they had, some sense of freedom, as opposed to down south where we were shown that this was not a thing to do. And then, that carried over. So and I had to explain that. And she was like, oh, I never thought about that. So yeah, as an adult now that I have to take pride in where I am. Of course, I'm a rock braids and beads or whatever it is that I need to rock, because I have no qualms about showing pride in whatever it is I decide to do to my hair.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some women, African-American women, young girls, that see pride in straightening their hairs and looking at the flowing locks and the blonde hair and all that. I'm not mad at them. It's just not my choice. I like, and again, in the 60s, I came of age. I understood that the kinky hair was the beautiful hair. And
right.
So, and since then I rock the natural hair. I love it. Will always live by, but I also understand why there are many women who need to feel beautiful. And in order to feel beautiful, they can straighten their hair, they can dye their hair, they can fry their hair, they can put new ones on. I ain't mad at them.
And the point is, it's your choice. Yep.
It's your choice. It's all good, and you feel beautiful.
Yeah.
So as we bring this, because we are at the hour and 10-minute mark, we might have to do a part 2. We'll be bringing you on from time to time to discuss new artistic things that come out, especially in theater and film. There's no Black Theater Festival this year, is it?
It's going to be virtual, and I can, I have to look at more about it. But I just got to notice, they're trying to put together something virtual. But I will let you know some more about it as I know more about it. It's a shame because it's been going on for 27 years. And so every 2 years for 20
years, right? By year. I mean, well, yeah, that's what
we might
annually.
We might have to have a, get together as a family and do the Black Theater. We put up some funds and give it to somebody, and we have dinner and start and just come together and do things. Again, we thank you again for coming on and sharing your expertise, sharing your insight with us on these 3 remarkable films that have been put out. One of the things I was upset with is that on one night in Miami, someone asked Regina King why didn't she have more A-list type stars. They did not want to audition for her. They didn't want to audition for those parts. They wanted to be given those parts and didn't put in the work that she would do. So I think I salute her for standing up for her craft, her art, and her integrity, and giving young men and women different opportunities to shine on film and shine on stage.
Kudos.
We also have we've interviewed your daughter-in-law.
We got to have her back. We had technical difficulties. Yeah,
you had technical difficulties, and your son is in, and we're gonna bring him on one time in a couple months, and we want to talk about the behind the scenes stuff that people don't get to see, and that we as African American Black people don't know about. These jobs of the teamster, these jobs of moving crews, these jobs of doing things on set that pay buku money that we can do that does not involve you being in front of the camera.
That's right.
And as we know, we have an artist. Our family is full of artists, especially in this household. The little boy is genius at editing and doing things together. The girl is down in Norfolk, might be graduating early because of the work she has put in, and then we always can come to you all to get insight on what we can do better. This television show that we are producing now is hopefully does well enough for us to quit our jobs sometime. We hope I'm gonna take it like this: Michael Smith and Jamel Hill. So they turn a podcast into hosting Sports Center. There's no telling what we can do if we stick to our guns and be consistent. And so that's the message we're going to leave with y'all tonight. Stick to your guns, be consistent, and do what you love. And do what you want to do until you have to do what you got to do.
That's all right. Thank you for having me.
Anything else you want to add before we go?
No, just continue to support theater of all kinds, movies, films. More power to you.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in. We see y'all in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, Super Bowl next week. Please share this on all your platforms. And don't forget, we also on Spreaker, Spreaker.com. You can find us, the Tell the Truth Podcast. I don't think we're on Apple yet.
No.
Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podomatic, Amazon Music. We are on now. I put the application in for Apple. I don't go on that site like talking about. So I asked somebody with an iPhone to see if we on there. Yeah. But please post and share this link. Post and share the podcast. We are monitorized. So look, do us a favor. I don't care if you listen to it. Just go and play it on a device, not just YouTube, but on Spotify. Just play it a couple of times. Just go down the whole list and just play. You can be asleep and have your phone on mute and just play all the things where we can get some fun, man. Y'all, I love y'all. Peace. Y'all have a great night. Be safe out here. And as the police do, make it home tomorrow.
No, we don't want to do like that.
No, we want to make it home.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. You're welcome.
We can call you after this.
Much fun. Thank you.
Welcome. Bye-bye.